Okay, we're going to check back with South Florida's Chief Meteorologist John Morales with more on Tropical Storm Erika. John.
So I thought I'd start off this particular hit, as we like to call it here on television, with a broader view. A view of what the weather map looks like right now across the southwestern North Atlantic into the Caribbean and in our vicinity. First of all, there's the Bermuda high, surprisingly enough, near Bermuda, and it is producing the typical trade winds. Now, here's the tropical storm, and what's been happening to this tropical storm is, remember how many times I've shown you on satellite pictures that the low-level center of circulation is detached from the thunderstorm activity? So imagine that low-level center only having a few low-topped clouds. In other words, they don't have a lot of vertical development. They're just trapped in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. So what do those clouds do, and what does that little swirl or center of circulation do? It just travels along with whatever these trade winds are doing. And what are the trade winds doing? They're blowing from east to west. So that's what's been pushing this system continuously towards the west, despite incessant computer forecast models that it would turn northwest. And first they were saying it would pass north of Puerto Rico. Certainly that never happened. Then that it would cross Puerto Rico. That never happened. Then that it would maybe clip southwestern Puerto Rico and come through here through the Mona Passage. That did not happen. And now we've got a storm that, well, thank goodness for the geography of the island of Hispaniola. Only because this peninsula exists down here is this storm about to hit land. It's going to catch it, and it's finally making landfall in the Caribbean. Now, what's upstream from this system? Well, we have this front, and you'd think, okay, a front is good. A front would serve as a deflector. It would turn Tropical Storm Erika towards the north. But the front is weakening, and actually, if you compare today's position of the front, it's actually up in the panhandle now. So it's kind of moved further towards the north, away from us. There is, and this is a surface map, so I can't show you what's going on aloft, but there is a dip in the jet stream just to the west here over the Gulf of Mexico, and that is what long-term is expected to catch Erika and turn her northbound. That's why, even though it's been going west all along, eventually this gradual turn towards the northwest is expected. But because she didn't turn early enough, now our starting point is way over here. So this turn has to be something that's going to turn further to the west of us, and that's what the computer forecast models have been doing of late. Let me show you the latest satellite image here. See if we can find the center of circulation. I reckon that the center is right there, right under where these thunderstorms are trying to build up at the very last couple of frames here, right around there. So it's just west of the city of Santo Domingo. I think there's a city called San Cristobal right here. Barahona is right down here. So maybe between San Cristobal and Barahona is where it's going to hit. Again, there is significant mountain areas there, and this is going to be good from our perspective to get it ripped apart as we are all crossing our fingers that will happen. The dry air has been a factor all these days. It's a little bit further separated today towards the north. There is still some dry air upstream towards the west. But what's a big factor today, as well as the topography, is this. Look, there's still a lot of upper level wind shear. Now, on this chart, and boy, I don't know if you've watched NBC6 all the time, but we did an upgrade to our computer graphics system, and we added these things called wind particles, and it's changed my life. It really has, because now I can show you not only the current situation with the winds aloft, but sometimes we can forecast forward to see what they're going to be like. This is the current situation, and I'm only showing you the winds that are 15 knots, which is about 17 miles per hour, and higher. So this is only the stronger winds I'm showing you. So not only is Erika going to interact with the land here, there is still some shearing going on, pretty significant vertical wind shear going on that would cut the head off of the storm. So again, all these thunderstorms will continue to be displaced towards the east. The low-level center might be detached because the winds are separating the thunderstorms towards the east. And with a detached low-level center, at some point, wouldn't you think that it would just die somewhere in the Dominican? That's what we think might happen. And we're in wait-and-see mode here to see what exactly goes on. One more look there at the loop as it approaches and passes the area of Santo Domingo. So the next advisory comes out at 5 o'clock. For now, we've got the 2 p.m. advisory. which still kept it at winds of 50 miles per hour, but with a remarkably high barometric pressure at the center of the storm. You know what the normal barometric pressure is across the entire globe? It's 1,013 millibars. It's not far from what you'd get on a normal day. 1,009. So it's certainly far from a normal tropical cyclone today. And there's the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, which I think is a little bit too aggressive in taking it towards the northwest. It really looks like it's going to hit somewhere down here as opposed to up here if you looked at the middle of this cone. So still within the cone. Hopefully they can still verify that way. But long term, in case you missed it or in case you're just tuning in right now, since it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this is what the 11 a.m. advisory for Erika indicated. Tropical storm now, not a hurricane. A tropical storm possibly making landfall in the Florida Keys or southern Florida or perhaps as far east as Bimini late on Sunday night into very early on Monday morning. Now, if this continues, if we continue to be in a forecast for a tropical storm to approach during those times, let's say late Sunday night, then you would think that a tropical storm watch might be issued as early as tonight, the watch. Because normally the watch, they issue it 48 hours out ahead of when you expect those first tropical storm force winds to arrive. So if they're going to arrive on Sunday night, that means that on Friday night is when you get the watch issued. And then the warning would come in, assuming that they feel confident that the storm is going to head our way, and that is, there's so many ifs, but if it is still alive and they still forecast the storm to come our way, then the warning would go into place at some point tomorrow, probably by midday. But here's the official forecast, again, right along the spine of Florida and all the way further up into the Georgia and Carolinas region. This is a significant map that I'm going to show you right now. If you're not watching, look now, because if you've been following us, you know that these numbers are lower than they were just last night. Miami last night had a 46% chance of experiencing tropical storm force winds due to Erika, and that number now is down to 35%. Fort Pierce was somewhere in the 40s as well. Their number down to 26%. Nassau, you were close to 47, 48% yesterday. Your chance of seeing tropical storm force winds has dropped to 21%. And I think the only two areas that have seen an increase in the number are Fort Myers, with a now 1 in 3 chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, and Key West. And why is this happening? Because the Hurricane Center has shifted the cone to the west. And also, why is the number dropping? Because it's not expected to be as strong. So if it's only going to be a tropical storm and not a hurricane, then the chances of us seeing strong winds would be expected to drop. So you saw the Bermuda high out there, and well, here's what the computer forecast models are saying about Erika and how she might behave right around the periphery of the high and kind of heading towards South Florida. You know, I decided to add back in the BAM suite of models. I had removed these BAMs, and this is BAM Deep and BAM Shallow. I had removed them earlier because, well, you know, they're not really dynamical models. They're kind of the legacy computer forecast models for hurricanes, the very first ones they ever came out with. But you know what? These have been pretty accurate. They've kept it on a southern path, so why not bring them back in and show them to you? Because they're certainly forecasting something off towards the west. Long term, here we see a clustering of the dynamical models, the more robust group of them, including the HWRF, which has been very, very good, and the TVCN, which is a consensus model. They bring it towards South Florida. One thing about these models, let me tell you, models are a forecaster for you to know where the Hurricane Center is going to place that cone. Right, so if you're following my Twitter feed and you see that I send out the early runs for the models that ran this morning, and you see where that cluster of thunderstorms is, where are they congregating? Bet you $1 that the National Hurricane Center is going to place their cone just about where those models are congregating. So if this is what the models are saying right now, I bet the 5 p.m. cone is going to have us in it. and maybe smack in the middle of it when that time comes later on today. Oops, well, we went on to temperatures here, but that means my presentation is over. And if you guys want to ask questions, I can have Adam come back and put another map up there and we can talk.
But I have a question for you, John, because as we await the all-important 5 p.m. advisory, you talked about Danny before Erika and that having 3 strikes, and we've been talking about Erika having 1.5, 2 strikes against it. What is it about this system that has really baffled those at the National Hurricane Center, baffled the computer models? It has been all over the place. What is it about Erika?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that the models have not been able to properly digest the fact that the system is so shallow and that the center of the system is separated from the thunderstorm. So I think the models have been tracking this big blob and thinking that the center of circulation is somewhere down here and that it's a much deeper system, because they look at this and they say, oh, this is a big, deep area of thunderstorms. This thing is going to get steered by things that are going up way up in the atmosphere, 40, 50,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And instead, what's been going on is that it's only the low-level winds that have been controlling where it's going. So that's what's happening to the models. And if the models are wrong, the National Hurricane Center is going to be wrong.
All right, John, thank you.
That's a bold statement.
That
right
is
there,
a bold
John. Thanks.
statement.